Cyber resilience has become a mainstream phrase among technology professionals. Almost every day, we're reminded in the news of security breaches, making it crucial for organizations to continuously enhance their cybersecurity readiness. Achieving cyber resilience starts with a holistic view of an organization, its data, its processes, its ecosystems, and relative exposures, with a comprehensive plan to mitigate risks and lower the ROI for attackers. A critical component of that plan is improving cyber readiness with a trusted data protection infrastructure. Resilient infrastructure is at the core and can increase board level confidence that continuous innovation can take place amid ever escalating cyber threats, multi-cloud complexity, and a rapidly evolving technology landscape, driven, of course, by the AI revolution, which is taking place before our eyes. Today, we're pleased to be hosting a special data protection launch event, Building Cyber Resilience on Trusted Data Protection Infrastructure, made possible by Dell Technologies and Intel. To kick things off, I'm joined today by two Dell execs, Travis Vigil is Senior Vice President of Product Management, and Rob Emsley, Director of Product Marketing. Gentlemen, welcome. It's good to see you here in our Palo Alto studio.
It's good seeing you, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's been a busy 12 months for Dell's data protection group. We saw the Navigating the Road to Cyber Resiliency, which we did here, that live event, which was the culmination of that series, capped off last December. Now another event. This time we've got hard news. So let's get right into it, Travis and Rob. Maybe you could share today's news and the headlines.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Dave. So Dell is expanding our industry-leading portfolio of data protection appliances, software, and as-a-service offerings, which help customers strengthen their cyber resiliency capability in the face of increasing AI-fueled cyber attacks. And as you know, Dave, cyber resiliency remains a top concern for organizations of all sizes. We just completed our 2024 Global Data Protection Index, and in it we found, not dissimilar to what we found in past years, that 75% of organizations believe that their existing data protection measures are unable to cope with ransomware threats. And nearly 70% of them lacked confidence that they could reliably recover from a cyber attack. So that brings us to today's news. We have three pieces of news today. The first of which is that Dell is introducing new Dell PowerProtect data domain models, the DD9410 and the DD9910, which are systems that are designed for large enterprises and extend our industry-leading capabilities in target appliances. You know, Dave, that data domain appliances have become foundational for organizations that are seeking to improve their cyber resiliency. And these new appliances come with some pretty impressive performance improvements. In particular, 38% faster backups and 44% faster restores.
Yeah, for sure. The data domain appliances, we like to call them the ultimate in protection storage. And they just keep getting better. We've been doing this for a long time, Dave. So this particular refresh helps customers with performance in a number of ways. You know, certainly with the introduction of new Intel Xeon scalable processors, faster disk drives, and the introduction of some of our compression technology, rather than being an independent card, is now actually built into the processor. It drives other performance benefits around things like instant access and restore. That's improved by 18%. But also, performance is one element, but efficiency is another really important element for customers. The ability to get greater efficiency with up to 11% less power consumption. We're able to reduce the floor space in data centers by up to 50%. And you can imagine in large enterprises, floor space is at a premium. So the ability to do that is really paramount. The other thing that's really important is we continue to promote our 3 I's with regards to immutability, isolation, and intelligence. And one of the things that we've been tracking quite closely is the number of cyber attacks that affect the backup infrastructure. Certainly, Sophos recently did a survey that identified that 94% of organizations that have been impacted by ransomware in the past year said that cyber criminals attempted to compromise their backups during an attack. So certainly the ability to protect your backups has never been more important. If the backups are gone, then the bad actors can go after your production environment and you really have no defense.
It's part of the core. We've talked many times, it's no longer even adjacency. It's a fundamental component of your infrastructure. And it feels like there's constantly reporting in the news, cyber attackers, they're getting through, ransomware payments are being made. And so these appliances, they're another brick in the wall. What about Gen AI? We're more than a year and a half into the Gen AI awakening, I like to call it. Are you using Gen AI in any way to simplify backup and recovery for customers?
Yeah, Dave, that actually brings us to the second major part of the announcement today. We're introducing Apex Backup Services AI, which is an integrated Gen AI assistant for backup and recovery, which allows customers to make their data protection processes more streamlined and effective. In particular, the capability offers interactive reporting for real-time custom reports and suggestions. It offers assisted troubleshooting through guided steps and real-time advice. And it offers intelligent responses with recommendations and best practices. And I think it's a great example of Dell Technologies' approach to generative AI. We have a strategy at Dell we call AI in, AI on, AI for, and AI with. AI in is the part of our strategy which ensures that we are building AI into our products. So this is a great example of that. But in addition to that, we have AI on, which means that we are providing server, storage, networking infrastructure for customers to run their generative AI infrastructure on. And we have AI for, which is how we within Dell are using generative AI to modernize our processes and procedures. And last but not least, we have AI with, which is partnering with technology providers and software providers, models providers, to bring an end-to-end ecosystem to help customers deploy generative AI on premises.
Anything you'd add, Rob?
Yeah, there's one thing that we haven't seen a lot of the data protection market talk much about, which is the importance of protecting AI workloads. AI workloads and the infrastructure that is used to run them is just another attack surface that the bad actors can go after. You need to protect it in the same way that you protect the rest of your critical application data, whether it be the training data, the models, the output data, whether it be on-prem, in the public cloud, or at the edge. So that's something which is a real big focus for us as we go forward.
So the audience might recall Dell unveiled its in, on, for, and with AI strategy last year at Dell Tech World. And we've seen the appointment of Jeff Boudreau as Dell's AI head, is really managing those 4 pillars or sort of help with the strategy. Look, AI creates a lot of data. It expands the attack surface. So you got to think about protecting it a lot. We hear a lot about data that's being generated for other specific purposes. It's really valuable data, so you want to be able to protect that. But speed is increasingly important as well in cyber recovery. The time it takes bad actors to get in, steal stuff, wreak havoc, it's really compressed to hours, if not minutes. So what are you guys doing to speed things up?
Speeding things up is critical. As you mentioned, data continues to grow. Generative AI is actually speeding the growth of data. And if you look at the Dell portfolio, we have the benefit of having both data protection and storage, as well as servers in the portfolio. So the third big piece of news today is that we're extending PowerProtect Data Manager Storage Direct Protection from what we announced last year, which is the support of PowerStore, to supporting Dell PowerMax, which is the world's most secure, mission-critical storage, and we're being able to provide faster backup and recovery times to 46 terabytes per hour for a single backup and 21 terabytes per hour for a single recovery. It's a great example of how we're able to innovate not just in data protection, but in the other parts of the Dell ISG portfolio to provide valuable efficiency and valuable speed to Dell customers.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that one challenge that customers often talk to us about is operational complexity. So storage direct protection really allows customers to simplify their operations, centralize their management, and provide orchestration of their backup and recovery processes with Dell storage, all managed through PowerProtect Data Manager. Plus, the additional benefit is once you move data from Dell storage onto the PowerProtect Data Domain appliances, you then have the ability to provide secure data integrity through immutability and also optional Cyber Vault integration, whether or not that be on premises or through our multi-cloud options that we've made available. So Storage Direct protection for Dell PowerMax will become generally available later this year.
So hardening the infrastructure and going faster. Nobody wants slower backup and recovery ever. So guys, thank you so much. The data protection train continues to roll. You're watching Building Cyber Resilience on Trusted Data Protection Infrastructure. We'll be right back.
Gain the confidence to recover from the unexpected with Dell PowerProtect Data Domain Appliances. Build your cyber resilient foundation on the #1 purpose-built backup appliance. Whether you're protecting data that's on premises with Data Domain or in multi-cloud with software-defined Dell Apex Protection Storage, you can ensure comprehensive cyber resilience wherever your data lives. Data Domain helps advance your cyber resilience maturity with multiple layers of zero trust security. The appliances help ensure the integrity and recoverability of your data and can be deployed in an isolated cyber recovery vault with independent management controls for tighter security. Data Domain also delivers the performance and efficiency you need. The latest generation of appliances delivers up to 38% faster backups and up to 44% faster restores. It's also more efficient, delivering up to 65 times data reduction and requiring up to 11% less power and 50% less floor space. All this equals a lower cost to protect. Plus, you get one-stop convenience with easy access to the full value of the Dell portfolio and broad partner and backup software ecosystem. Be prepared for the unexpected with Dell PowerProtect Data Domain. Learn more at dell.com/data domain.
Go back to Building Cyber Resilience on Trusted Data Protection Infrastructure, brought to you by Dell Technologies and Intel. I'm pleased to bring Rich Colbert, Field CTO Data Protection at Dell, into the conversation along with Rob. Guys, the core of this announcement is really the new Data Domain appliances. Now these appliances, for the audience, were a category creator going back over a decade ago, and they've endured. What has made Data Domain such a durable product category over all these years?
Well, I think it's a couple things. I think that the Data Domain product has a track record with performance, scale, and efficiency. Those three things really go together, right? The ability to handle an organization's entire backup workload in a reasonable amount of time and a reasonable amount of space. So having that kind of that secret, that secret formula, secret sauce, whatever you want to call it, to be able to be reliable in that sense. But I think more so than that is that the Data Domain platform has become the trusted storage of last resort. Data Domain systems do what they say they're going to do. They protect the data. They have an obligation to providing that data when something bad happens to it. And so a lot of organizations have come to rely on not just the features of the system, but the durability and the ability to trust it to get their data back.
Yeah, it really is the choice of customers in the market. As you mentioned, the market's been tracked for over a decade, and still today, coming out of 2023, 42% of all dollars spent on backup appliances is spent on Dell Technologies PowerProtect appliances, and that's, to me, it's obviously very welcome, but it really does show that customers continue to go from generation to generation. As we discussed earlier, the next generation of Data Domain appliances, the ability to move from one generation to another is really straightforward for them. And we see many, many customers that simply by doing a appliance change with their existing backup data can immediately achieve improvements in backup performance, immediately achieve performance improvements in restore. And that is always a big deal whenever we do a tech refresh, because our sales organization and our partners really take that message to all of our customers everywhere around the globe.
People in the audience may not remember, but they used to do all this backup with tape, right?
Yeah.
And so data domain really disrupted that and then became a sort of the staple. But it was a very innovative technology at the time, and it's continued to advance. We heard earlier the performance improvements. It's also interesting that Commvault recently announced support for data domain boost API. What is the significance? First of all, wow, you get very interesting frenemies going on here. But what's the significance of that announcement to both you all, your
Yep.
ecosystem, and customers?
I mean, one of the realities is that backup appliances come in two flavors, integrated and target. Integrated appliances from us, run with our own software stack. Target appliances, as the name suggests, can be a target for any backup and recovery application. And that's been true since really the beginning of the availability of data domain appliances. With Commvault's integration and API level integration, the nice thing for us is that 4 out of 6 of the Gartner Magic Quadrant enterprise backup and recovery leaders now have API level integration with data domain appliances. So that really gives customers a great choice. Sure, we would love all of our customers to be running Dell software with Dell target-based appliances, but the reality is that the backup application market has been around for a very long time. So many customers choose, either a different solution, or they might combine multiple solutions together, and data domain becomes the common denominator for them.
One thing that's really nice about this, and I was kind of in the position at the beginning of this relationship, was that it really was customer driven. Customers had Commvault and data domain, they had experience with both, and they realized that working the two of them together in a kind of a non-integrated fashion wasn't living up to their expectations. This integration actually helps drive the simplicity and really maximizes what both solutions can do. And across the board, we're seeing simplicity driving this industry. The other part, to your point, is that the backup software industry is fractured. There's no vendor that has anywhere more than 5, maybe 8%. I think Dell has 12, and that becomes an 800-pound gorilla. The fact that we're able to reach so many customers and provide the things that data domain can do, irrespective of their backup software choice. Sure, we'd like it to be Dell, but we also want to be that open system provider that is helpful.
Smart by you guys. You become the infrastructure standard, open it up a little bit, and it makes the customers happy. It's a win-win. Data domain, of course, gets a lot of attention. It's a big product category, but maybe you could talk a little bit about sort of the other parts of the portfolio beyond data domain. I'm specifically interested in PowerProtect Data Manager and Apex Backup Services. How significant are these offerings, and how should we think where they fit in the portfolio and the whole value chain, if you will, of that portfolio?
I think they're both a really big part of our strategy. I think we realized and we kind of became aware that simplicity was one of the two main things driving adoption in data protection. The other one, of course, being cyber resiliency. But when it comes to simplicity, I think there was a wake-up call in this last decade or so where some new folks in the room kind of came in and kind of showed us that the folks were yearning for a backup solution that was simpler. It allows you to not have as much time in training. It increases the accuracy of the job that you're doing. So we took a lot of time and looked at what we had to offer and decided that Data Manager was the right way to go. A net new product with simplicity and API control built in from the ground up. It takes a long time to build software that is mature and serves the needs of the larger customers, the enterprise customers. But we really hit an inflection point in this last year with Data Manager where we nearly doubled or over doubled the number of customers in a single year. So it is definitely our go-forward strategy. It's hit a lot of the key workloads and a lot of the key operational maturity that we need to work with. And I think with the feedback that we're getting from our customers is it's even simpler than some of those new simple solutions that are out there. So we took our lesson, and I think we've come up with a great solution.
Yeah, the nice thing is, and we've spoken about this in the past, is that we made a couple of key decisions about Data Manager, especially with our existing customers, many that have been with us for many, many years with some of our other products. We entitled those customers as part of their support contracts to make use of Data Manager. So many of them have introduced it to complement specific workloads, especially, for instance, VMware vSphere Data Protection. We have some unique IP within PowerProtect Data Manager with transparent snapshots that we've spoken about in the past. So that allows them to gain access to a simpler, modern platform as simply part of their existing relationship with Dell. So that was point number one. Secondly, we also, because we knew where they were and where we wanted them to go, we were able to do tooling to help them transition their policies, their agents from older technologies that many of them are still using to the modern platform as part of our overarching strategy to move them forward in the future. So make no mistake, PowerProtect Data Manager is absolutely our innovation engine as we go forward in the future. You saw last year, or actually the year before, we introduced a new integrated appliance using PowerProtect Data Manager. And that is kind of the second step. And as we go forward, you'll see us continuing to evolve the availability of PowerProtect Data Manager in different form factors. And that would be a big focus for us.
And you've got that tooling to make that migration much more facile. That's key for the innovation engine. Earlier, we were discussing the need for trusted infrastructure to support cyber resilience, but multi-cloud complexity is a big challenge for customers and also is a big part of Dell's value proposition, your whole narrative there. What can you tell us about your multi-cloud posture and specifically in this area and your differentiation?
So a couple things, and back to your previous question, Apex Backup Services is a big part of our multi-cloud posture. It allows us to reach workloads like Microsoft 365 and Google Cloud and so on in the public cloud. It's also a great SaaS-based offering for things like edge locations and smaller data centers, and it is growing. It is something that we've had a tremendous uptake from a customer perspective. But all of our data protection technology, the PowerProtect Data Domain platform in its virtual form, as well as PowerProtect Data Manager, are also available in the public cloud. And we didn't just flip a switch and decide to make them available. Dell's cloud posture, data protection got there first. We had to start moving a long time ago into the public cloud to follow the workloads, to follow the data, because customers would decide where to re-platform, how to platform their data and applications. We had no choice but to simply move along. So around 2015 or 16, you could start seeing our offerings in the public cloud marketplaces. So we have a little bit of a head start, and we've matured in terms of how to be cloud native and how to be cloud efficient. And what we're seeing today is a transition from customers away from kind of a cloud first to a multi-cloud and more what you would call a cloud smart strategy. And that's the idea of putting the appropriate applications and data in the cloud or pulling them back on premises as their businesses need change or as their experience evolves.
Well, that on-prem experience has really closed the gap with cloud. It's, people talk about it's an operating model. And so the difference is, far less than it was, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, Apex Backup Services was only introduced in the last little over 3 years, 2021, and we're already serving over 1,200 customers around the globe. Because there's some customers, certainly in the medium part of the market, that effectively say to themselves, "Hey, as I move more of my data center to the cloud, I want to move my data protection capabilities to the cloud." So adopting a backup as a service solution is available to them through Apex Backup Services. So one of the things we've always said is that we truly want to provide a one-stop shop with the options that our customers really want to take from us to solve their challenges. Whether or not that be lift and shift their data protection infrastructure that they've been working with us on premises and lift it and deploy it as is in the public cloud, whether or not that be AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud Platform, or move over to a backup as a service offering. And that's how they can do that with Apex Backup Services.
Well, Jensen Huang said you're the #1 at end-to-end systems. I mean, so who am I to argue with Jensen? Anyway, the survey data from our friends at ETR shows that the top line tech spending growth remains tepid. And more importantly, Gen AI is stealing from other budget areas. And so cost continues to be a challenge for a lot of organizations, on top of the threats they face that we've been talking about today. So you guys have this tagline of modern, simple, and resilient. But how do you be those three things and at the same time be economically viable?
Well, that's where efficiency comes in, and that's something that's always been part of our message, and it's something that we've remained focused on. And I think some of the other folks in the marketplace have really been focused more on the simplicity and then some of the cyber messaging. But we find that efficiency is what drives the affordability and the cost rational side of the solution. Data protection backup in particular has always had to deal with data gravity. How do you store that much data? It could be 20 times more data in your protection copies than you have in your primary copies. And how do you move all that data around, whether it is from one data center to another or to the cloud or so forth? There's a lot of, if there's a lot to be gained if you can make that data very small and move it in an effective fashion. And that shows up on the bottom line too, because how much of a solution do you need to provision in order for the work to be taken care of? So they go hand in hand. The cost to serve that we have, I think, is compelling. We have a lot of models that we share with our customers on kind of how to right size their data protection solution, how we're going to not guess at what they need to do, not have to add more capacity down the road. And that all comes out in things like our cost to protect surveys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that often customers get marketed cheaper solutions, acquisition price being the focus. But backups are not just for Christmas. Backups are long-term retention of data. So you have to look at the entire total cost of ownership, and that's really where the Dell data protection infrastructure solutions really pay off on the bottom line. Is when you look over a 3 or 5 year horizon of the total cost of managing those backups. And that's where, with the work we've done with the Enterprise Strategy Group, for literally a cent per gigabyte per month, you can implement Dell data protection solutions on premises. And that's really where, customers get a great benefit from us.
Well, and when you think about the business case for data protection, a lot of it is reducing the risk, reducing the expected loss. Because what's the probability that you're going to either get hacked or lose data? It's very high. What's the impact of that? It's getting higher, as we know. So the faster you can recover and with quality data, the less risk there is.
Well, you mentioned that one of the big drivers of budget right now is AI, and I would say the second one right now is cyber resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing a lot more organizations invest in data protection as part of their cyber resiliency posture, and it's not so much about how they think about spending about backup and recovery, but how they look at the total picture and what's it going to take to be able to recover from a small, medium, or large impact cyber event.
Rich, Rob, thanks so much for coming on the program. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, up next we get the analyst perspective from Christophe Bertrand. You're watching Building Cyber Resilience on Trusted Data Protection Infrastructure. We'll be right back.
It's your data, created in the real world, with all your hopes and dreams and possibilities driving your business. From farming to financials, transportation to telecommunications, from data centers to the clouds. But is it protected? It is. With Power Protect appliances, your one stop to make sure your data is always safe. With Power Protect, your ultimate choice in cloud data protection.
We're back with Christophe Bertrand, who's the practice director at ESG, and we're going to talk about reinventing data protection and the disruptive impacts that AI and machine intelligence have on backup and recovery with some new, fresh survey data and research that ESG has done around cyber resilience and recovery. Christophe, welcome. It's good to see you back in studio. We were here in December.
Great to be here.
Doing well.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So you have some recent survey research that we're going to talk about here. But before we get deep into the data, I wonder if you could share with the audience the background of the research, the demographics, the methodology? Just take it from there.
Yeah, so typically what we do is we speak to hundreds of respondents. They're highly qualified IT professionals or cyber professionals, depending on the topic. And typically it's North America, Western Europe, a combination thereof. It depends on the nature of the research. So what it gives us, it's essentially great data from end users. Not only do we get sentiment data, but we can quantify what's going on, what the challenges are, what the opportunities are. So it's great data for both end users. What are your peers doing? What's going on? You're not alone, typically, is the reaction we get. But also for vendors, we can get a good sense for what's going on in terms of trends. And that gives me the ability to do more research as I detect, where I see smoke, as I detect problems. I know there's a fire, so I go do more research on those topics.
Yeah, you guys have done this and you've built on it for years. And because you have such domain expertise, you can ask the right questions. Now, a key finding in this recent survey, and if you guys could cue the first slide, was that 89% of respondents rank ransomware as a top 5 threat to the viability of their organization. But even more striking, that when I saw this data, is nearly 2/3 say that ransomware is one of the top 3 threats to the viability of the organization. So this tells us that firms really aren't prepared.
Right, and by the way, the question we asked was really around the viability of the business, not about IT or IT infrastructure or anything like that. It was truly about the business. So the numbers are staggering. Why? Because this is a business issue. Now we're talking about existential type of problems here, extinction level type of problems with ransomware attacks. So what that changes is also the nature of the people who get involved. So here's the good news for IT professionals. They will have the ear of their executives. They will have access to more budget. They will have access to more resources. Here's the bad news. It's a business issue. It means you have new processes, new teams, and you have to really think through the technology. I'm going to say one more time, but here the nature of the problem has changed, and that's really what's at stake here. You are critical in IT now in your ability to help de-risk the business, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, so it's not just a technology case. It's not just about hardware failing. It's a whole house type of organizational business case that maybe IT people aren't used to making.
Absolutely, and it's also forcing some conversations across different groups that maybe we're not really talking before. Let me put it this way. The minute the security guy calls the backup and recovery guy to say, hey, I've got a problem, can you help me recover? Well, guess what? It's too late. You should have been talking before.
Okay, nearly 70% of the respondents in this survey said that recovery from a ransomware attack is fundamentally different than recovering from other types of disasters like fires or floods. We have a graphic on this. It's a pie chart. Why, Christoph, do people think this, and what are some of the salient differences in your view?
Right, so I like to say that disaster recovery is dead. Now we're really in the era of cyber recovery and really cyber resilience. So it's not just marketing buzz or vendors making pivots in messaging and PR. This is real. What's happening is that traditional disasters are not traditional anymore. You could see the hurricane come, right? You could shut things down and fail over to a secondary center or to the cloud, whatever the case may be. But now things are different. You don't know what's going to hit you. You don't know how it's going to hit you. You don't know when. Could be bad, could be really bad, or could be benign. So the processes have to change. The teams have to change. And what's going on is, I believe, today what we're seeing is that because there's so much data, so much complexity in IT environments to begin with, what we would call technical debt, and teams that are not aligned to face these new challenges, well, people run around with their hair on fire in some cases, and it's a big disruption. So what's the net-net? We talked about it being a business existential issue. Let me sort of bring it back to data protection, backup recovery. The traditional metrics, such as RPO or RTO, used to be pretty well managed. We got to a good place, and now they're just out the window because you have to really think the recovery process, you have to be more preemptive, you have to do a lot of different things that you didn't have to do before. So the combination of cybersecurity, traditional disaster recovery, data management is happening, and that's happening against a background or backdrop of a lot of data being generated around AI and a lot of investments going in all new areas of technology. So people are running behind this train constantly. So a change is needed, and technology can help, but the processes and the people will have to evolve as well.
I can't tell you how many times I heard during the pandemic, I'm sure you did too, that we were way too focused on disaster recovery versus just our overall business resilience. So, okay, so that was a catalyst, and people are clearly still catching up based on that survey data. Now you've got the AI wave comes in. So we want to talk about AI and data protection. People don't often think about those two topics going together, but should they, and if so, why?
Right. So I think there are two facets to this, two sides of the coin. Right. There's the creation of data that AI is generating. So think of it as a new workload, for lack of a better term. So as if we didn't have enough data, now we're generating even more data. Trained data, model data, for whether for analytics, for Gen AI, you name it. So and we've looked at that, and it's starting to become significant. I mean, before we know it, it's going to be very, very significant. Certainly in the petabytes range already. So you've got to protect that. The reality is it's not really quite happening. Now, the second aspect is, how do I use ML and AI in the context of easing my data protection, my ransomware recovery? So it's the use case of AI and ML applied to data protection and backup and recovery. So those are very different conversations. Of course, they are intertwined to a large extent, but they're different. Protect the generation of new data is number one. And then secondly is generating better data protection with Gen AI, with AI, and ML.
To the latter, to really reduce some of those mundane tasks. The former, I mean, people talking a lot about synthetic data,
Right.
that the building digital twins, things of that nature. There's a real IP in there. You don't want to lose that. You don't want, certainly don't want that to get stolen. All right, so this next data point is something that I'd like you to address. Guys, maybe bring up the AI data backup gap slide. Only about a third of respondents say they regularly back up more than half of their AI generated data. So Christoph, what does this tell you? Why is it important to protect data that AI generates?
Well, I mean, it's very simple. I like to follow the money. Is it worth money to you or not? And if it's not, then don't forget about it. Don't worry about it. It's unlikely not to be important. Why? Because you've just spent a lot of money and great skill sets on generating new models and new data to train more models. So this data you're generating with AI is key to you. It's important to your business. You're doing this for a reason. Why not protect it? Now, it's typical when there's a new workload or a new process or a new use case. Sometimes it takes time for backup and recovery processes to catch up. So I think we're seeing this at play here. But with the speed at which AI is evolving, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think we're past the big high of last year. It was all buzzy around AI, but it was PR. Well, now people are looking at actual use cases. They're actually pushing those out. They're actually investing. So now they have to follow up with the backup piece. They have to protect those investments. I look at it this way: whether you're using AI for Gen AI to supplement a business process or customer experience, or whether it's for analytics to better understand your business, for example, build new products, it's actually pure IP. And that is worth a lot of money to you. So data has become the business in many ways here.
Well, and images are becoming, the thing. And actually AI is getting pretty good at, at building images. And so that's going to drive a lot of data, right? And you want to be able to, for instance, I would presume, say, okay, this image was actually created without using external IP. It was done by our own IP. And so actually having sort of a trail of what actually happened, an audit trail of whether it's the prompt or what the source of that
Right.
data is going to be critical. I mean, and it's discoverable.
Exactly. So you get into this question of what I would call data management on steroids now, right? Because you have to make sure the data you use, first of all, is usable, right? You can't use private data just like that. It has to be masked, has to be anonymized. So there is a compliance and really a governance conversation leading to also this notion of, do I have quality data that I'm using in my models? So this idea of quality of data is becoming very key. But here's the thing: you actually have a lot of this data already in-house, not just production, but in your backups, in your archives. So what can you use? What should you use? How do you reuse it? These are very important questions. And then as you produce results and new value out of these data assets, how do you protect those assets?
I wonder if, I mean, it's got to be becoming a board level discussion. It's got to be bubbling up, just like cyber was. Data protection has become a fundamental component. We talked about this in December. It's no longer an adjacency. Now you've got this AI data protection, whole new set of processes. It's got to be bubbling to the top, don't you think?
Just like ransomware or cyber protection or resilience is an executive or board level issue, the same thing is happening here. I think what we're seeing, though, it's early stages. So there are many, many challenges. That means there's also an ecosystem that's sort of forming. And in order to be successful, you really need to think through your processes, but also the investments you're making in technology, the type of vendors and partners you want to work with, and of course the skill sets you need to build to get to the point where you can safely generate these models if you want to use them in your business. You mentioned synthetic data. That's another topic. I think there'll be more in the future about that. Uh, at the end of the day, you are looking to make for quality in the data so that the models do not hallucinate, so that the data you generate is compliant, and so that you are responsible as an organization. So this notion of responsible AI is a very, very hot topic we're also researching in my practice.
Early days and a lot of unknowns. Now, more than half of the organizations in your survey said that AI and ML will improve their ability to recover data after a ransomware attack. A large portion of the respondents also said that it's going to help them improve their RPO and RTO posture. Guys, bring up the next graphic if you would. So better RPO, RTO as it relates to recovering from ransomware attack. And only in the topic of Gen AI, only 1% said Gen AI will not help with improving the backup recovery process. So people are pretty positive about AI. What else did you learn from this data? And are you as optimistic?
I am as optimistic as they are. I think it's going to be absolutely key. I'd like to talk about this notion of generative data protection, really, where you can really interact and ask questions like, well, do I have the right recovery plans in place? But tying this back to ransomware, can I actually automatically generate a plan in plain English, or at least in understandable terms that can be then executed by another part of the team, right? Talking about, again, this interaction of multiple teams. The automation's like the driving car, the self-driving car. Do you really want to fully take your hands off the wheel, the steering wheel, and do you need a steering wheel? Yes, you do, right? It's not going to happen overnight. But there's plenty you can do to automate, to do more. And the reason why you have to do this is because it's just too much data. Processes are very complex, and the nature of the people operating the environment has changed, and they're not PhDs in backups, right?
Yeah.
Or PhDs in ransomware. Those people don't really exist anymore, if they ever did. So you have to have those tools. And I think Gen AI and AI in general, in ML, in data protection is absolutely key. That's going to be, in my opinion, what makes a difference in the future between the vendors who win, the vendors who do not.
And it'll be an evolution. It's like full self-driving, right? Every day we use automation capabilities when we drive. We're not full self-driving quite yet, but it's super helpful. And I would imagine this is going to be a similar trajectory. All right, we've been talking all day about building cyber resilient infrastructure. What's your take on Dell's announcements in that regard?
So first of all, when it comes to, we talked about AI too, I think they're clearly an established leader, both in cyber resiliency, with great solutions on this topic, and of course, a key player and key partner when it comes to AI infrastructure, hardware and software, and really great solutions. So definitely not a big surprise to see that we're seeing this continued investment in the portfolio. Definitely great news for existing users of data domain. I think this is a couple of new platforms here that are going to change not only the performance characteristics of what they have in the environment, but it's also about the reliability. I like also the fact that there's plenty of built-in security in the platform. Starting at the supply chain, really, literally, supply chain of the actual system. So that's very powerful. And then there were other components to the announcement, also around cloud and leveraging AI in sort of cloud data protection. So, I think when it comes down to cyber resilience, Dell has a very established reputation, thousands and thousands of customers to prove it. And this announcement only confirms their leadership. And I expect to see actually even more in the next few quarters because the problem's not going away. They're solving it really well. And there are plenty of customers who love to be able to use easy to deploy solutions. So they fit the bill.
We love having you as a guest because you always bring the perspective and the data. So thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And thank you for spending some time with us today to participate in building cyber resilience on trusted data protection infrastructure made possible by Dell Technologies and Intel. Remember, this episode and all its segments and the short takes are all available on demand at thecube.net with more coverage and written content on siliconangle.com. This is Dave Vellante. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.